You're watching Morning at NTV.
After 125 years, martyrdom is still fresh in the minds of many. And come 3rd June, many Ugandans and Christians across the whole world will be celebrating the lives of these young and brave men who offered their lives for the Christian faith. NTV and the entire crew are going to be camped here until that day, asking questions like why, how, and when did each one of them die, and their significance to the Christian faith in the world. My name is Brian Mulondo, live from the Martyrs Shrine in Namugongo. Simon Kasiate, Joel Senyonyi, Mabel Kebirunji at the NTV studios. This is Morning at NTV. Let's get started with the question of the day. Well, that question is very simple. Head over to our Facebook page, Morning at NTV. You can also tweet us at Morning at NTV. The SMS platform, very easy. Send the SMS to 6565. The first 5 respondents will each walk away with a mug, which I don't have on site here, so really I probably use one of these local plastic cups here in the markets around Namugongo, and the first 5 respondents will be winners. Good luck! Now, if you can see in the background, Namugongo Shrine is where I am right now. And ladies and gentlemen, for the next 2 hours, I will be switching between here and the NTV studios to give you exactly what this feels. For many Christians, this is literally the reason why we celebrate Jesus. When a man decides to die for Christ, it's definitely worth everything they live for. Many students here already celebrating Mass, and of course I will be back in a couple of minutes to tell you what is happening. But for now, let's cross over to Mabel, who is at the NTV studios with the stories that are making headlines. Mabel, have you been to the shrines before? I know you stay a couple of minutes away from this place. Will you be here on 3rd June?
Very good morning to you, Brian, and yes, I do live around there, and it's good to know that yeah, you're representing us there. Whether you're joining us on air or online, a very good morning to the show. Welcome to Morning at NTV this Friday, the 30th day of May. Let's take a look at the headlines. A couple from Bujiri are perplexed about their newborn son. President Museveni has said he has never been behind the Busoga succession wars, and government says Bukenya is seeking for sympathy. A couple from Bujiri is perplexed about their newborn son who has a parasitic twin attached to his body. The twins have 1 head, 2 chests and 8 limbs and are joined at the genitalia. The parents sought medical help at Mulago Hospital, which is still studying the children to establish what body parts they share and possibly operate them in order to separate them.
Margaret Awino, a mother of 5 who lives in Nabijingo village in Bujiri district, says she had unbearable pain in her womb when her pregnancy was just 6 months. But even then, she did not seek antenatal care. She was helped to deliver at home by her aunt, but says that to their shock, the baby did not look normal. The parasitic twin has 2 legs, but its hands and chest are not fully developed.
It was the hands that were formed, then the legs that were formed. Part of the chest was formed, which we call a phallus. Then part of the behind and the buttocks was also formed. Then another thing about the child is that he has got what we call a bifida scrotum. The scrotum has divided.
Doctors say parasitic twins occur when a twin embryo begins developing in the utero, but the pair does not fully separate, and one embryo maintains dominant development at the expense of the other. The medical experts in Mulago will do an ultrasound and x-rays on the child to establish which organs they share and come up with a solution.
But as of now, there isn't much we can do. Everything is guarded until the time when tests are done and we know where to begin from.
Mulago Hospital has not registered a case of parasitic twins before. Irene Namialo, NTV.
President Yoweri Museveni says he has never been behind the kingdom's succession wars. This is in Busoga. The president, who was attending the inauguration ceremony of the new Busoga Kingdom Assembly, blamed the kingdom's cultural leaders for sowing discord. He, however, applauded them for uniting to start rebuilding the kingdom.
Since the demise of the Chabazinga Henry Wako Muloki in September 2008, the culture institution has been entangled in succession wars. First, it was the late Wako's son, Edward Columbus Muloki, who was installed amid great opposition from a section of culture leaders. The battles to see a unifying Chabazinga have been long-standing, forcing President Museveni to intervene. In March this year, 10 royal families agreed to unite and a new legislative assembly was elected. The 96-member assembly has been inaugurated and presented to the people of Busoga at a function that was attended by the president himself. While addressing the assembly at Bugembe Palace Hall, the president downplayed statements that it is his government which has been sabotaging efforts to elect a substantive Chabazinga.
Now, this time, there was a lot of controversy. Even on this ceremony, some people are saying you don't go, some are saying all sorts of things. But some people say government, I don't have a vote.
He, however, applauded the 10 clans which united to end the differences and promised to work with them to develop the kingdom.
Because whatever it is, whether it is illegal or not illegal, it makes the possibility to solve the problem easier if the 10 are there than when there is nothing.
The acting Chabazinga, Kaune Wakoli, urged the Basoga to move on and forget the past. The Speaker of the Assembly, George Mutiabule, said the first assignment for the Luchiko is to ensure that Busoga's properties are returned by the central government.
We will come up with a well-planned and selected committee, Your Excellency, to come and meet with your committee concerned with the return of Webe Ife. It will be a milestone and will guide and help the royals to deliver an elected Chabazinga, possibly by the end of October this year.
The task of the new assembly is to rebuild the kingdom and come up with new developmental plans.
The government spokesperson and the president's press secretary have slammed recent statements made in the press by the former Vice President Dr. Gilbert Bukenya. Bukenya has indicated in his latest book, In the Corridors of Power, that the office of the Vice President is ceremonial and that he was removed from office without any official statement from the president. Ofono Opondo and Tamale Mirundi argue that the former Vice President could be seeking sympathy and running away from crimes against the state that he committed when he was still in office. Maurice Ochol has that report.
The government spokesperson Ofono Opondo says that following his removal from office in 2011, Professor Gilbert Bukenya has never shown any gratitude to the president for allowing him to serve in the high office for over 8 years.
When he was enjoying the benefits, how come he didn't say that office was empty? All of us saw how Bukenya was copying and mimicking the president. He had all the paraphernalia.
Ofono Opondo does not agree with Bukenya, noting that the president has powers to appoint and to dismiss officials at his discretion.
The president does not owe him any explanation as to why he dropped him. The president is only required to give an explanation to the country through parliament.
Tamala Mirundi, the press secretary to the president, on the other hand, argues that Bukenya could have committed some crimes and is now trying to insulate himself.
Bukenya might have committed the crimes during his tenure, and he knows that the accountability is now high on the agenda. And many people believe that once you become antagonistic to government, even if you committed a crime, you can go away with it. You remember the Chogam, the Chogamu investigations.
In his book, Bukenya has written about how he was unceremoniously dropped from the cabinet and how the office is an empty shell.
Bukenya is vice president, the flags are good blowing. When it comes to discussing the nitty-gritties, is nowhere to be seen.
Tamale Mirundi adds that Bukenya could be politically naive and has no knowledge of the different roles of a vice president.
What is entitled to Bukenya in the constitution as a vice president that he did not get? The only problem Bukenya's problem is that he doesn't know the categories of vice president. That the vice president for continuity, Bukenya did not appear on Museveni's ballot, on the presidential ballot. He was picked as an assistant.
Even then, Ofonopono argues that Bukenya did many government jobs.
He would speak for the government on the floor of parliament. He would chair cabinet.
Tamale Mirundi also asserts that as NRM's chairman for Wakiso in Buganda, Bukenya's public show defiance, for example, in Luwero when he supported the opposition's candidate, is a bad example to the younger members of the party.
If you have an indisciplined party, you will have an indisciplined government. Because somebody will question, why did you suffer me? Yes, this is not a coalition government.
According to the two NRM officials, Bukenya is not a threat at the moment and does not wield any political force.
The government and NRM should really leave that rope to him. At the end of the rope, Professor Bukenya should tie a knot and hang himself. We don't really intend to bother so much. Bukenya's comments and actions should be the least of our worries.
But Bukenya is not an important issue in Uganda's politics. A former vice president who does not appear in any opinion poll.
And though the officials think little of Bukenya, he still stands his grounds on running for the highest office in the land against President Joe Museveni in 2016. Maurice Achol, NTV.
Well, a very good morning. This is a wonderful Friday morning, and we're coming to you from a different setting and quite very unfamiliar stuff for the morning press review as for myself. And yes, I must say, well, on this 30th day as we come to the close of the month of May, we are privileged to come to you once again and share with you what's making it the headlines in the papers this morning. We have the pleasure to have with us the Daily Monitor, the Red Paper, and of course, the Tri-Weekly Observer. I'm with half the usual suspects. The other suspect coming to us live from Namugongo's Matters Shrine. You must have seen him earlier on in the show. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. The other suspect is busy repenting for his sins at Namugongo. I saw him kneeling down at some point, so hopefully he comes back a holier man.
Well, I'll keep a very close company with him. You know, they say when you rub against a very strong magnet, you also tend to get a bit magnetized.
Are you not the one who has infected him, Kasiad?
Well, now let's get down to what's making it the headlines this very morning. In the Daily Monitor, we've got a headline showing us the government-sponsored university list, which is out. So if you who's watching us from home in the comfort of your living room and you're enjoying the process of your Form 6 vacation waiting to get down to university, you may need to get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor to find out whether or not you appear on this list of government-sponsored students from public universities.
And of course, not surprising, students from Central Region take the lion's share of the final lists of these slots. Look, I think we need to do something about schools up-country areas. You know, many of these schools, for example, you find an entire district has one, if any school, that, for example, has a science lab. And here we are talking about, you know, let's promote sciences, let's make them compulsory. We need to be a lot more practical in the way we do things, you know. So I do come from Central Region, so you'd expect that I should be excited about this, that Central Region takes the lion's share, but I'm thinking, no. We need to see equitable distribution of resources in this country.
Well, when you look at the names that may also be making it to this list of people in Central Region, doesn't necessarily mean these are natives of Central Region. You realize that the Central Region is a highly cosmopolitan region of the country. It's a melting pot of different people coming in from different parts
Without
of the
country.
country.
Without a doubt, but there's those that can't make it here.
Yeah, and those who seek opportunities come to the Central Region and find them. And so we cannot so much as begrudge them. Of course, at the end of the day, the best meals are served in the Central Region. The best clothes can only be bought in the Central Region. The best cars, well,
which we are saying should
I don't even think there's a car born outside this.
Huh?
So we are a centralized society where the capital city is the to use your language. Is the Kamarabiona. You come here to get every opportunity. So
Which shouldn't be the case.
there needs to be a shift to say let's decentralize.
Without a doubt, without a doubt.
Everything.
You know, people don't need to
but
come
as
here
you
for
decentralize,
literally
you also
everything.
need to change the mindset of people, because people think that opportunities are in the city. They want to come to the big cities,
Because
check
that's
out
the
some
truth.
electricity.
At least for now. At least for now. You talk about electricity. There are places where they take electric poles, put them down, especially during by-elections, you know, to sort of treat people to vote a certain way. And after elections, if they have voted for somebody for the NRM, power comes there. If it is otherwise, they take the polls away. We have seen that happen
a couple of times. Well, it's a Friday edition of the Daily Monitor, which I have here with me, and there's quite some good bit of entertainment news coming in on page 3 of all places, and we are seeing the dynamic duo of Radio and Weasel. No matter their tribulations, because I seem to be following a little bit of their usual shenanigans and mischievous.
The other day I had they fought or something with some people.
It's like saying you heard that Simon is wearing a bow tie. These guys fighting, getting drunk and behaving in the most unscrupulous way is their way of life. But amidst all that chaos, there seems to come out of some very good news. I personally love their music. I wonder when they compose this music, because half the time
always fighting
and stoned. But well, here they are being nominated for NTV awards, and I think that despite their conduct, which I think is maybe the sine qua non of being an astute showbiz person, we need to give them our support through prayer, including Brian being at the Namgongo Mata Shrine. These guys need prayers.
Somebody quipped that, look, was Radio fighting or was he used as a stick to beat somebody? You know, the young man is too small to beat up anybody, but there you have it. Still in the Daily Monitor, police brutality, journalist sues force over assault. We've seen many of our colleagues beaten up by police, and I don't know why police has a high affinity to beat. You know, I was looking at a story back in 2010 where they were whipping Honorable Nabida. You know, she was on the ground and they kept beating her up. I think that was the Masiro saga.
I keep telling you, it's not just even about the police. There's something about people in uniform and thinking that they have got to run roughshod over ordinary people who do not have uniform. And I keep giving the example of these ordinary guys wearing ordinary private security firms who think that by virtue of the fact that they're wearing a private security firm, they have the right to gazamp you all over the place.
I heard that a civilian actually beat up one of them.
Well,
did you hear that story?
You know I don't take no prisoners. You don't bring your little uniform just simply because...
you're the one I was talking about. You're the civilian.
Well, the man was 20 kilograms, I'm 90, so what do you expect? Anyway, Central, like you said, it's here on page 4 where you're saying the Central region is dominating government admissions. Well, what can we do about it? We know that President Yoweri Museveni was in the East and... trying to, you know, get a bit of, you know, reconciliation amongst these chiefs in Busoga, who for the most part have been unable to get a substantive Chabazinga since the death of Wako Muloki many years ago. Now, a sad story coming in from those quarters saying that a Busoga chief collapsed and died. Now,
actually, it was at the very function.
Exactly.
Before the president arrived, though.
Absolutely. So clearly, maybe was it out of a stampede or any other reasons? The story is in the Daily Monitor. Get yourself a copy and find out exactly what led to this.
You see, many a time, when His Excellency the President is supposed to appear at a function, when he's meant to come at 9 a.m., he will come at 3 p.m., you know. I don't know whether it is a security kind of modus operandi, if you're lucky. I think it is not right, you know. Of course, I know we tend to have East African Standard Time, but sometimes we tend to think it is East African stretchable time, so we can probably stretch it a little bit.
But you will appreciate that if the president supposed to have arrived at 9 and he shows up at 3 o'clock, between 9 and 3 o'clock he's not on a hammock by the beach sipping on pina colada. He is addressing other very serious issues.
We assume so.
No. You know for a fact that we've had instances where, I mean, we as reporters know that there can be an incident where the president is expected in Dohoro. They are expecting him and there's a lot of fanfare. He's also expected to sink a borehole in Arua. At the same time,
attend a birthday party somewhere.
Exactly. Now, all this could take place on the same day. Now, people start gathering at those places in the morning, but he knows his itinerary. Clearly, he actually does come in the specific realms of time that he did give these people. Only that, of course,
he doesn't keep the time, but he keeps the appointment.
Yeah, but for mobilization purposes, the hosts tend to galvanize the support of people to come a bit earlier.
I think it's not right that we do not keep time in this country. It is wrong, and I'm not saying so as somebody who is perfect, but we need to style up a little bit, you know.
Please don't try to be this modest person. These viewers of ours know that every day when they wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, or even before that, they know the time morning at NTV starts. There is no time we have stood here and say, you know, because of unforeseen reasons, morning at NTV is going to start at 9 a.m. We always keep time. The question is, why don't they keep time? So
good question.
There seems to be, and not all of us don't keep time, but clearly you can see that there is a greater shift of people who do not keep time.
All right, Kota quits Kasibanti in another case. You should know that each time they arrest these politicians, well, of course, politicians are a very capricious lot. Today they are one thing, tomorrow they do another. But look, whenever police comes in to arrest these guys for, I don't know, unlawful assembly, etc., I do not know of anybody, basically all the likes of these guys, who has actually been convicted, guilty in any way, and sentenced. Many of them are always acquitted. So I keep thinking, what does
when
go
police
on
arrest them, of course, it gives them a little bit of undue mileage. And given the story that we are seeing on page 6 of the Daily Monitor, Ugandan members of parliament fear to debate freely, says Kadaga. I think even if they were not free to debate, many of them do not debate. And a case in point is that gentleman who you've just been talking about. Other than
I've actually had him a few times in Parliament.
Well, and the question is,
he might have a few challenges with the English language.
You've heard him saying what? You see, there is one thing to say something, to speak, and there is another thing to have substance in what you say. But also, for the most part, many of his, a big number of the 375 of his colleagues can hardly articulate anything or even open their mouth to speak. So there seemed to be a huge shift in making news and deliberations outside the floor of parliament as opposed to being on the floor of parliament. But what are the reasons being advanced by the Speaker of Parliament saying that her MPs whom she superintends over are unable to debate freely? Is there some kind of muzzling of the freedoms of expression on the floor of parliament? If that be the case, the story is in the Daily Monitor. I think that's a point of concern.
Well, of course, her issue is tethered to multi-party politics, because she says that back when it was the movement system, people expressed themselves freely, as opposed to the way it is now. You've got to take a party position, because, you know, if you take the rebel route, you might get your fingers burnt. There you have it. Now, ESC Court paves way for Ziwa censure. This beleaguered friend of ours
has been on the works for a very long time. Well, you were here, you know, seeming to pour a lot of scorn on the police force as a whole, but within the police there seem to be a few, you know, shining stars. And here in the
Daily Monitor, they are.
We know that if you remember him very well, and they say if you remember the police officer called Fred Yiga, having been the head of traffic in Kampala, you are certainly not less than 35 years. So clearly, this police officer, who is an assistant inspector general of police at that rank, he's received a UN medal, and this is as a result of his hard work. And
very well deserved. Very well deserved. We hope a lot more police officers can win themselves medals. I would like to see, you know, the state of affairs for police officers in this country change. You know, I told you the other day I was at the Parliament entrance. I saw this police officer. He just really looked very despondent. I got stressed the entire day because I thought about how much these guys earn, how late it comes, the shacks they live in for houses, and even though many times, you know, I will lampoon them on a show like this one for their way of operation, I think we need to do something for them. We need to ameliorate them as a country.
Well, as an individual, I duly and respectfully pay my taxes. I never default, so I hope that that goes in, you know, into the coffers of government to do what exactly it's supposed to be doing. But talking about which, 157 UPDF men join rebels. This is a flagship story in the Red Paper this morning. Why have they joined the rebels? Perhaps one of the reasons to explain this is bad pay, poor pay, and all the other twin evils that come with it. The Red Paper this morning is interestingly getting deeper into very many stories coming in from the north, the west, and the central region, especially where we're broadcasting from, talking about KCCA and what it is or not doing, and all these, you know, talking about 51 years on, AU must play its role. This is an opinion in the Red Paper. Now, we are told that the African Union is far from being the kind of autonomous continental you know, coordination body where they are able to make certain firm decisions on and for Africans.
I tend to see it as a toothless dog. Many times they've come up, you know, to make noise about this. They've failed to actually, you know, buttress Africa as far as we've seen conflicts all over the place. They come in and they do not do much. So until they get to that point where they can actually, you know, make good of their threats, hopefully we'll begin to believe them a lot more. I am holding the Observer with me here, of course, headline story talking about university admissions and, you know, the best schools are very well adumbrated therein. Now, Museveni Kondas says basically, this man says, look, went to the bush, we had certain ideals that we believed in, and thereafter, goalposts seem to have been changed, unfortunately.
This is when he was, and this is when he was appearing on that flagship program on the BBC, Hard Talk, right?
Yes, it is. Reduce advisors, MPs tell Museveni. I stopped counting. Do you know the number of advisors His Excellency the
look
President
at who
has?
is telling the president to reduce on advisors. These are people who will come to him begging to be advisors when they fail to make the house at the next cycle of election. So this whole pretense of saying
no, but let's not trivialize the issue.
No.
Really.
You see, at the end of the day, the message is pregnant. Indeed, the president perhaps. I do not know what his motivation of having as many advisors is.
Many times I actually tend to think he's the one who advises his advisors.
But you see, coming in from cycles of people who would never turn down an opportunity to be one of those many presidential advisors. Why don't they say in the first place we should reduce the size of our parliament? 375 members of parliament is an overdose for a country of 34 million people, especially given even the quality.
But you're the ones who keep clamoring for more districts, and of course that comes with administrative costs, and that comes with more leaders.
Don't put it down on we are talking about members of
Ugandans.
No, we are represented by our members of parliament. And let them start by one, saying let's reduce the size of parliament. They can even reduce the number of districts. These districts can be put back together. It doesn't mean that when you fragment them, you cannot put them back together.
I see that as the tall order. But
Yeah,
anyhow,
so let them
hopefully
not
it does
just come
happen
here
at
and
some
start saying
point.
things that they do not even mean. I mean, I don't even know why newspapers still give such people some space to say the kind of stuff.
They are your members of parliament, they legislate on your behalf, so whether you like it or yes, there you have it. Museveni vows to crush rebel youths. I commiserate with these youth. They are going to be turned into sumbusas.
Well, they brought it upon themselves. I mean, what do you expect when you are kneeling before the president? Well, looking at your number one weekend pull-out for entertainment in the Daily Monitor, my favorite magazine here, Scoop, we're having a flagship story on gospel diva Judith Babirye. The gospel singer opens up on music, politics, and love. Yes, now let's not forget that she's mooting some political ideas. So if you were relating with her as a mere musician this time around, you may need to start thinking twice and preparing to add the title Honorable to her name if what she's threatening to do at 2016 comes to pass. What do we have in the inner pages of the Observer this morning, Joel?
Being a Friday, of course, a little bit of toned down stories now. When the weaker sex makes the stronger move. You know, have you heard of ladies who propose to men? Look, these ladies are very scary. And you see, it does not matter whether you're a drop-dead, gorgeous-looking woman. My dear, when you approach certain guys, they'll run away. They'll run away. So ladies, please allow us the opportunity to be the ones to make the move now. Why do you want to emasculate us?
Now, Joel.
Yes, please.
If you are walking, riding a snail towards that end, what do you expect the lady who's waiting for you at the finishing line to do? She possibly may want to come around and pick you up on her horse. So please, if
whatever you do, show me a few leads here and there, but please leave it to me. I know of a guy, you know, back at, I think it was at Moobs, and so he went to this girl's room, and I was telling the girl, don't be afraid, you ask me out, it's okay. The girl said, okay, get out of my room. Hopefully that does not happen to a number of other guys. But ladies, please be the ladies. You know, let the guys be the men. Now, of course, there are guys who, you know, are just all over, gallivanting all over the place, who are waiting for, I don't know. We will probably need to man up as well. Anyhow, that is in the Observer for you. How to deal with attention-seeking child behavior. There are children who want the attention. And many times it's probably not that good for them. So they seem to anecdotize for you here how you can get to deal with these young children. Why the Uganda martyrs were killed. This is also in the Observer. Hopefully you can get to look at it.
Please do not con our readers of the Observer. They must know that is certainly a parody kind of article coming in from a comedian called Pablo.
You want to hear his side of the story.
Well, in Scope magazine here, there's a very interesting article on how to be. Yes, you guessed right, Professor Gilbert Mukenya. And there's very many interesting pictures of him in different circumstances. And
he loves the squeeze dance. Is that a picture of him holding a young lady?
Well, again, Simon is wearing a bow tie.
That's not one of the reasons you do not seem to like the man.
No, certainly not. Oh, no, I have great admiration for him. But
you do? Finally, you concede.
Yes, I have great admiration for him, especially with regard to the fact that he's unable to know his own weaknesses and, you know, that exaggerated sense of self-worth. Well, we know that in the sports section of the Monitor this morning and other newspapers like the Red Paper, it is wartime. The Red Paper seems to scream on the back page. Of course, they are looking at the Uganda-Madagascar game. We better beat these guys, and there's no reason as why we cannot beat Madagascar. One on home turf, Two, Madagascar is by all standards, and I'm sure the Madagascar team is watching us this morning because I know they are in the country. These are people who are rated hundreds of places below us in the FIFA rankings in football.
That does no reason as to why. It for granted. They could thump us.
We have Matters there coming in next week. The Uganda Matters must rain some luck onto our boys here to beat them at Nambole. And of course, that's a call for you, Ugandans, to come and be the 12th man for this football game. Now, our dear friend Mabel is not coming to us with the international news as always, but of course, yes, we bring a cap to this edition of the press review coming to you from the studios of NTV at the Kampala Serena Hotel. We'll be right back with a big story.
Coming soon on NTV.
A tale of two families.
I would very much want to thank everybody who is behind the Braganza estate.
Bound by friendship. Torn apart by love.
Hi, Gardo.
Consumed by greed.
A man's courage is not measured by how many guns he owns or about how many people are frightened of him.
Stay down! Stay down!
An epic retelling of the most successful Philippine drama series of all time.
Coming soon on NTV.
What's that?
That document.
Oh, that. Just some business.
I came to apologize. I have no right to interfere in your lives.
I've eliminated the only evidence that links me to Ivan Chinawa's death.
But you didn't have to kill another person.
It's not like I've got anything to hide, Nene. Just go ahead.
Victoria, how is it like to work for Miles Vilagazzi?
Blood seemed to matter not.
Blood?
Yeah, blood.
I'm responsible for your father's death.
You and I ever gonna have a chance to be sisters?
You want the baby to have my name?
Would that be okay?
So I'm happy you came.
Yes, especially since I thought you were shunning all things Newman. I have my own reasons for showing up.
What did you say about him?
I'm sorry, attempted rape.
Okay, look, whatever you think you know about him, you don't know his heart.
If there is a way to make me feel more miserable, you will instinctively find it.
You gave up the one woman you loved, and now you're having a hard time figuring out how to move on?
I can't imagine who would want to hurt a good man like you.
Okay, you know what? I don't need you telling me how to feel about Lily.
Are you pregnant? No. Then why are you trying to alienate Tyler?
Has something happened between the two of you? Are you afraid that I'm gonna do something to ruin your marriage, or that you will?
Why don't we have a party? I'll bring Nikki and bring your siblings. How's that?
Now, what are you gonna do? You gonna blackmail them this time, or are you gonna bribe them?
Looks like Mommy's not the only one who knows how to make up a story.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Well, this morning I told you we're live from the Namgongo Matters Shrine, and a group that has just come in right now shouting and jubilating, and finally they've reached this place. You can sing something in the local language, eh? Yeah, please sing something. Wow! All right. Okay, so I just need to talk to. As you can see, the excitement is huge. I told you earlier we're going to be talking to some of the people. Lwachi abantu bazze Namugongo olunaku luno lutegeeza lwaki abajulizi bafa. We're going to be looking at that and more. I've got an opportunity to talk to. Are you the leader of the group? I know you look like a real She's Jambwen. Or you steady?
Yeah.
Where are you from? Where exactly are you from?
We are from Uganda Matters Parish, Mbarara Diocese, and Ruwera Parish from Ntongamo, also Mbarara Diocese.
Okay. How many are you?
We are 132.
If I can just have so that people can see him. How many are you?
We are 132.
132.
Yeah.
How long have you walked?
9 days from Barat here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Aren't you tired?
No, because we are working with Christ, we can't be tired.
Wow. And the woman, let me talk to mommy here. Mbwenu, ebigere tebikushasha.
Ebigere nibishasha, konka habwo kwikiriza. Nibyo tukuma cyandeta.
Amen.
Abo kushanga kwikiriza kwanje ni ntonyoke ebigere byona bihire konka ninjiranda. Ndebeka ngo nabasa kutekaho aganje gona mpaka mpitirize cy'abajurize babemba ko.
Amina. Naye uno mukadde nnyo ate. Gwe lwakyoze.
Nze guno mulundi gwange gwa mukaaga nganzija. Naye nze kyendabye mu kutambula kubanga nange njagala bajjajja bange abatufiirira. Nange nkola ekyo bajjukire.
Right.
Emyaka nina nkaaga mu ebiri.
Wangi? Olinga nga ina 3. Ate gwe mama?
Nyowe nindigibanda Bubare Parish ni nyizire Namugongo okusiima Ruhanga habwe ekyonjo ky'abazuruzi habwo kufera Yezu kandi nanye mbanze kugira amani nkahamu mukwikiriza nanye nyencha kare nkabasa kubagana akikorwa ekyo. Amazina Nduskovia Kebaraza urukurugibanda Bubare Parish.
Wow, ndaba n'omwana omuto osimayo no nayazze na.
Emyaka nyina 5 nena.
Olina emyaka 5 mwena. Bannange abali e Kampala nga mulimu offices olingo wabiri. Ono n'omwana naye muzze naye. Ono kanjugende muzee wano muzee. Jebale koso. Gwe lwaki wasazeewo okujja ne bano?
Nazenze navudde mu Kagamba Parish. Ntunga mu district. Naze kulamaga Ruwebigere. Kwegatta ku bazuluzi abafiira eddiini nibadamu nikireetera eddiini y'ekatuluka n'abakulembeze b'enzikiriza bonna b'ensi yonna ne Uganda yaffe baliddwamu okugitungula n'egenda ku mutindo gw'eddiini.
Wow. Bizibu ki bye mufunye mu kkubo muzeeyi? Bizibu ki bye mufunye batugamba nti enkuba ebakuba jangu wano?
Kati enkuba webadde ejja kutonya ntugisabira netonya walala negana kutonyako kubanga Katonda tubadde na Katonda omulamu tubadde na Katonda enzamani amanya gange banyisa John Patrick Katabazi nva ntungamo district era kati ndina maanyi laba
Checho olaye bigere Checho on
era tulina maanyi.
Olina emyaka emeka gwe?
Nkaaga mu mukaaga.
What?
Era yeeyo kati ndi muvuga no nkwata kusitula nikuteeka wagulu.
Tonteekayo.
Era kuteekayo.
Kanjogere no muvubuka omuto ava Now over Mumbara Justice. Okay, can you get a kono mwana? Yes, this gentleman. Oli mwana muto lwaki gwe abaana abato abasinga bino ebintu babyagala. Basalawo bone tusigale tubetinga ebintu webi. Lwaki wasazeewo otambule from Mbarara?
Kati ekyansikiriza kumanya Katonda bajulizi bafiira wano nange nensalamu nenji mpika polentya kanzije nange mfiire
ngamba olunyankole mbwenu
ngamba olunyankole ati nyo kisimizi munonga nkashara munaja ati ntambuze bigere abwaci ahubwo kabajurizi nabo bakabona bana kuko turi kugizaho kugera ki kubona bona icyo turugere ntungamo rwera twatambuze bigere nitutuka wano turungi tiwali cye turi Otulaba nduzi.
Nkulaba. Mbweni muntere akishongoro. Aha. Akishongoro.
Akishongoro. Oitu nigwe.
Mzee okosteza mugo.
Paris ndigwe. Naise mirundi eshato buno bwakati. Ndijampa. Ndenda unyesase ndeba abajuri. Ahubwo kuba bakanjuririra nine bintu binje bibaranyamba. Mbwenu hati na niko kajya ntikasimbure ngende nyine myaka yanjye nkazagwa 22 nyine myaka 5
Wow. Bueno. You can see the sacrifice here. If you've not yet been to Namugongo, well, it's a time for you. Challenging people who are 60 years, 70 years, walking for 9 days from Mbarara to Kampala. Mutere kishunguru. Well, Joel, the excitement is going on, and let's continue that. But back to you for the big story as we celebrate.
I remember that not too long ago he had
Joel,
some minor...
it's definitely excitement here, and I know at the NTV studios you're probably wondering, wow, how can we join? I will be coming back later, probably with another group that is here, and as just heard, these guys are fresh from the road to Namugongo. Back to you for the big story. I'll see you in about 15 minutes.
All right, thanks a bunch, Brian. Please tell those people to have Nongan, to Vendezo Businje, etc., etc. All right, the big story is coming up in a very short while. Government has endorsed the NGO bill that seeks to regulate activities of non-governmental organizations in this country. Many of them get funding, and government feels we need to keep track of how this money is coming, what they do, etc., etc. I'll be talking this when we get back in a while. Welcome to the big story. My name is Joel Senyonyi. As we talk NGO bill, my guest this morning, Arthur Larocque. Arthur is the Executive Director, Action Aid Uganda. Good to have you here, Arthur.
Thank you very much. I'm proud to be here.
Now, as government seeks to regulate activities of NGOs, I've been trying to look at some responses from members of civil society, and they are, you know, coming out vehemently saying, look, why is government coming out to regulate us, and so on. I'm thinking, why do you not want to be regulated?
I don't think we don't want to be regulated. It's government's responsibility and actually mandate to regulate every actor. It is the type of regulation, I suppose, that we are concerned about. But having worked in this area of legal reform for the NGO sector since 1999, nothing really surprises me, and I will be surprised if NGO leaders are surprised at what is emerging from cabinet.
Now, lots of monies do come in to non-government organizations, and many times we tend to assume, all right, what this money is meant for is actually what it is doing on the ground, and that sometimes is not exactly the case. You know, it might not be for Action Aid. I hope it is not, but it could be for several others. There are many briefcase NGOs, and this is just about the time to say, look, we need to pull the plugs on some of these. We need to keep track of these monies that come in and be sure they're actually doing what they should be doing. We have some, you know, threatening rebel activity. These guys are funded by who we do not know. So why not come in and do this?
I think, to be quite honest, we cannot discuss the proposed amendment that Cabinet made as if it's a new thing. we've been with this legislation since 1989. And there have simply been iterations here and there, depending on the context in which the government finds itself. I think from 1989, when the first NGO statute was put in place, the preoccupation between 1987 and 89, when the law was put in place, was security fear. The threat from a young NRM government that had come through a guerrilla warfare. They were worried about how society is organized, genuinely perhaps. And so the framing of the legislation in 1989 was largely NGOs as a security problem. Now, 10 years down the road, there was an amendment, a process to amend the NGO legislation. And we made strong, arguments then in 1999 about how context had changed, how the fears had not been fulfilled, and how we need a more progressive legislation. So all the concerns that people raise, they are either diversionary or really part of the story. I think clearly any legislation or regulation that the NGO sector deserves is one that will promote publicly accountable NGOs. There's a relatively good NGO policy that understands this issue. Unfortunately, the regulations or the law are really not in tandem with that relatively progressive NGO policy, and that's where the problem is.
I'll tell you, I look at many NGOs and their modus operandi, and I keep wondering, really, I thought this money is meant to trickle down to, say, Northern Uganda, whatever the case might be. You guys are always, hiring out expensive conference rooms. You're always driving powerful machines. And I'm thinking, I look at your administrative costs, they seem to be a lot higher than probably they should. And government is saying, we want to ensure that our people are ameliorated. So if this money is meant to help the common Ugandan, that should be the case. And not just, blessing the likes of Arthur Loroka and a few others of his contemporaries.
Well, if that was the purpose of the law, we all would be happy. But the truth is, if you read the essence of the proposed amendment that Cabinet has passed, we don't oppose amendments. In fact, as a matter of principle, the NGO sector has always been arguing for an amendment to the NGO legislation. It was done in 2006. I don't think it made the situation better. And we've made the case that we need a promotional legislation that will guarantee publicly accountable NGOs. Now, the purpose of this amendment, if you read it carefully, it's about the gap the law intends to address is that NGOs have become subversive, a bit like what you are saying. So, to be very honest, if anybody needed evidence, and real facts on the ground, all the claims you are making would be debunked. I can give you an example of ActionAid, for instance. Most donors that fund NGOs do not even allow a percentage beyond 15 to 20% of administrative costs. They don't allow that. So NGOs that succeed most likely do not have such ratios. So ActionAid, for instance, the maximum we can have on administration is 22%. There is no way we can go beyond that. So that argument is not necessarily true. I know for a fact that most NGOs are donor dependent, and therefore these requirements about programs versus administrative costs is a requirement that most donors insist on. So I don't take that argument at all. The fact that NGOs are driving big cars, again, we are part of a culture. To be honest, we are part of the same society. So does
it make it right that if,
say, ministers
drive powerful cars, MPs, so NGOs should do the same? Because that's what you seem to insinuate.
No, not at all. Not at all. I can justify the reason why ActionAid has Land Cruisers, why World Vision and other organizations that work in deep rural areas have Land Cruisers that are fuel guzzling, not necessarily driving in the township of Kampala, because the roads are horrible. You cannot reach out. You cannot reach out to the target constituencies, so that is justifiable. But if NGOs were parading around Kampala, driving cars like ministers, I think I would have a problem with that. I have a problem with that everywhere I speak about these issues. So
does it concern you that many an NGO's funding is actually not very clear. You talk about accountability, public accountability. We do not seem to know exactly, for a good number of them, where the funding comes in from, what it comes in to do. That should concern us as a country because, you know, we are hearing, for example, terrorism threats. You know, we don't know who funds these guys. And then one would think maybe some of this money is channeled to that or some other criminal activity. Does that not concern you?
No, you see, it doesn't concern me because
really,
it doesn't.
Ugandan,
can I tell you?
For starters,
can I tell you? Because I think that argument is baseless.
Why is it so? Because if you're not accountable, if we do not know where your money is come from,
no
it should concern us.
There is no NGO in this country that gets money that government is not aware of. Absolutely not.
But government says so that they don't know about some of the monies that come in.
That's simply a scapegoat. Every single NGO is supposed to file annual returns for as long as you are registered with the NGO board. Every year we are supposed to file annual returns, which indicates what budgets you have, how you have spent your money, external auditors. All that information is at the NGO board. Now, if government does not want to use information that is available, I don't think it can blame NGOs. So if there is a list of NGOs, whether 100, 1,000 that do not comply, bring them out and we debate those. So I think we cannot just take a blanket argument or NGOs are unaccountable. No, I think actually NGOs are more accountable than any other agency in this country. I truly believe so. Despite challenges that we might have, despite gaps, because we are part of the same society that is facing a moral crisis, so there will be elements of difficulties in the NGO sector as well, but we are aware of that and we are doing something about that. So I think that is the spirit with which we should look at this particular legislation. Not a way, you know, you just need to control them, you need to, you know, it doesn't serve any purpose. Let me tell you an interesting statistic. Unfortunately, there is not so much updated statistics about the real expenditures of NGOs and the impact on the economy, but the last robust study that was done a number of years ago estimated that the NGO sector employed twice the number of people in the public sector. The NGO sector expenditures accounted for 2% of GDP. When you say we are coming to Serena to organize meetings, it depends on which type of meetings. If you are meeting ministers, yes, you are going to come here. But majority of NGOs are having meetings under the trees. So it is just that the information about what really happens in the NGO sector is not properly understood by the public, not at least the public that watches the mainstream media. So if the media was interested and government was really interested in what happens in the sector, they would get this information, go to a general assembly of two of the biggest NGO networks, the Uganda National NGO Forum, for instance, and the NIVA. The members come to the general assembly in bicycles, not in Land Cruisers. So these are the realities that nobody wants to pick. And if we are given the opportunity, this is what we will be presenting, both to Parliament, to government, and anybody who cares to know.
He who pays the piper calls the tune, goes the old adage. And as these monies do come in, the people that send these monies have got certain interests that they probably want to extend to this our country. And as a Ugandan, that concerns me. I'm thinking these guys do not exactly at the end of the day mean good. The Muzungu, even though you might say, well, there are these poor Karamajongs that are starving and that kind of thing, ultimately they do not want you and I to become better. So it should concern us as a country that they are bringing in these monies. I think it is a good thing on the one part. But look, they've got interests to push as well, and government feels they are using you as conduits, as tools to actually, at the end of the day, have these interests met, which interest might not actually be the interests of Uganda.
Yeah, that's an interesting debate. But again, to tell you quite honestly, the assumption that the West, that donors, that white people have wrong intentions of coming to Africa is not necessarily true. Now, in terms of aid that goes to NGO sector, it might be less than 3% of the aid that comes to Uganda. Majority of it from the same Western donors goes to government. Why doesn't government say we are now foreign interest driven? Because they have an agenda that they market to donors. It's the same thing NGOs do. Now, there are always challenges of aid when it comes. Of course, there are interests sometimes that you need to negotiate, but the assumption, the blanket assumption that people in the West have wrong interests in Africa is not necessarily true. In any case, we are accountable first and foremost to those for whom we generate resources. So the Action Aid, for instance, we have an interesting, the NGO sector has an interesting NGO quality assurance certification mechanism that puts NGOs, lays them bare in terms of the public they serve. So they need to give us public scrutiny before we get certification. We've gone through that as Action Aid. Now, if you ask any of the constituencies we serve, I don't think they will have this attitude. If you consulted the constituencies that NGOs serve, they will not pass such a legislation because they know the valuable work that World Vision, Action Aid, many other organizations are doing. So I think if we need to have a useful legislation for the NGO sector, it should be informed by fact and not an illusion around subversion and things like that. The other point you need to remember, when you are analyzing all legislations, I think this country is slowly sliding to rule by law, where they want to legislate about everything, from a little matter in your bedroom to how you organize publicly, it must be legislated upon. I don't think that is the direction we should be moving as a country. So I think that is the larger concern we should be having rather than focusing on a small matter like the NGO legislation. I am really, to be honest with you, I am not worried at all about this legislation.
Arthur, you should know that over the last 60 years, over $1 trillion has trickled into Africa, you know, in form of aid. Part of the recipients being NGOs like yourself. And look, the situation does not seem to get any better. Africa seems to keep getting debilitated again and again. We are becoming poorer, more disease infested. Many of the things that people are trying to reach out to. There does not seem to be a semblance of things getting better. And so one would think this thing is not working after all. We need to find other ways of reaching out to our people, perhaps.
Yeah, there are many criticisms around aid and its effectiveness, and there is a lot of literature about that. But to claim that Africa is the same as it was in the 1940s,
no, it's not.
Not true.
It is worse in some cases.
No.
In many cases.
No,
our poverty levels are higher.
You
know our disease infestation levels are a lot higher if you have done your research.
What the poverty statistics in Uganda are, just to use Uganda as a case, whether you believe in it or not. 1992, 57%. Today, the end of 2013, 21%.
And you want to credit it to aid?
Not just aid, a combination. You know, aid is not a panacea for development. We should know that. Eventually, aid should be managed in such a way that domestic revenue eventually replaces these resources. We are aware of this. But if you think about the real gaps that NGOs cover with the additional resources that they mobilize, it is creating impact on the ground. Impact on the ground. And you simply need to do case studies to understand these facts and avoid making sweeping statements that sometimes we see coming through legislations. Oh, they are subversive, they have done that. Which NGO has been subversive? Can the government just take them to court?
And you talk about that very point. Our government has come out again and again to say, look, these NGOs are supposed to be helping the poor, those that are suffering with illness or whatever the case might be. But of late, they are becoming a lot more politicians, you know. Of course, I do understand our government is slowly but surely becoming totalitarian, and we need to find ways of checking it. But our government feels you people are trying to operate like you are political parties, and if that be the case, then go and register as political parties as opposed to registering as NGOs, and then get on the ground, let the rubber meet the road, and we see how things roll.
Well, that is another pedestrian view that is often there in the market. The truth of the matter is NGOs register under particular legislation. There is no way we can become political parties. So the issue is about whether we are engaging in politics or being partisan. I will tell you clearly, there is absolutely nothing wrong for an NGO to be engaged in politics, because politics, simply understood, is about resource distribution. Every development actor worth its name is political, but we are not necessarily partisan. But when I share an idea, a view with the NRM, if I agree with an ideology that the NRM propagates, or the one that the DP propagates, or FDC, there is nothing wrong with that, because ultimately, if you unmask NGOs, you find human beings like me who have a particular inclination. The question is, on whose side do NGOs appear to be often? I think if we were running around, you know, in the way many people are drumming, saying third term, whatever, nobody would raise an issue. The police would not even bother But because we are raising critical issues that sometimes the opposition also raises, then we are blanketed as being part of There is nothing wrong with being in the opposition. There is nothing wrong with opposition political parties. We are simply fronting social justice concerns and ways in which the government can improve its performance. Tomorrow, if the same opposition that we seem to be working with are in government, we will do exactly the same thing with the NRM if they're in the opposition. So I think we need to delineate what are the issues NGOs are pushing for, rather than just claiming they are political, they are partisan. You know, that kind of pedestrian and blanket arguments again is not very useful.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with calling government to order, nothing wrong with being in the opposition, but there is something wrong with me going beyond the time allotted to me. Athala Rock, ED Action 8, thanks a bunch for joining us.
Thank you.
My opinion is coming up in a bit.
All right.
Since the 1940s, over $1 trillion has trickled into Africa in form of aid. And part of the recipients, like we did say, are NGOs, civil society organizations. And if you are to critically assess this aid, you would think it is not doing us as much good as it does seem to, say it should do. Actually, some people feel that, look, aid actually is the disease of the, of the problem it seems to want to cure, and that seems to roll out again and again. But that said, when we look at government trying to close ties on literally everybody that comes up in arms and says, look, be accountable, do a good job, let law and order prevail in this country, we feel we need not have a totalitarian government. We need not to see our, the powers that be, our leaders in this country going against everybody. That seems to raise certain points that need to be looked into. So as long as we can find some kind of balance, government listens to the other voices, be they Ugandans or not, and everybody plays their part, who knows, Uganda might, without a doubt, become a better country than it is currently. Enough said. That's the big story for this morning. Morning at NTV continues. Do stay with us.
Coming soon on NTV.
A tale of two families.
I would very much want to thank everybody who is behind the Braganza estate.
Oh, that's us!
Bound by friendship. Torn apart by love.
Hi, Gardo.
Consumed by greed.
A man's courage is not measured by how many guns he owns or about how many people are frightened of him.
Stay down! Stay down!
An epic retelling of the most successful Philippine drama series of all time.
Coming soon on NTV.
Mikwano gyaffe bana NTV ate naddala mu bannaamu muli gw'emizannyo muli gw'ebyemizannyo gukomyewo 2014 ate mutya kati ate gukyusiza n'obudde gwa 7 gwali gwa 9 ne gugoberera ntusanyuka kati gubongereddeko wano malya g'ebyemisana awo gusooke gubatayize gubaleetere buli kintu kyonna kalonda ennawo by'emizannyo ogwo muli gw'ebyemizannyo mupya 2014 isima waali alagira Argentina yenjo mukubira eddiba lye omukwano gujja kukomawo ku muli gw'emizannyo naye kasita kinatuuka eri bano ba Messi okulumba abalenzi baffe ba Thiago Silva awo tewali mukwano omuli gw'ebyemizannyo 2014.
Are you and I ever gonna have a chance to be sisters?
You want the baby to have my name?
Would that be okay?
So I'm happy you came.
Yes, especially since I thought you were shunning all things Newman. I have my own reasons for showing up.
What did you say about him?
I'm sorry, attempted rape.
Okay, look, whatever you think you know about him, you don't know his heart.
If there is a way to make me feel more miserable, you will instinctively find it.
You gave up the one woman you loved, and now you're having a hard time figuring out how to move on?
I can't imagine who would want to hurt a good man like you.
Okay, you know what? I don't need you telling me how to feel about Lily.
Are you pregnant? No. Then why are you trying to alienate Tyler?
Has something happened between the two of you? Are you afraid that I'm gonna do something to ruin your marriage, or that you will?
Why don't we have a party? I'll bring Nikki and bring your siblings. How's that?
Now, what are you gonna do? You gonna blackmail them this time, or are you gonna bribe them?
Looks like Mommy's not the only one who knows how to make up a story.
Kampala has been voted in the past as one of the favorite cities for tourists, one of the most peaceful cities. That is something that is changing.
Kale Kaihura, the Inspector General of Police, and President Yoweri Museveni, their alliance, they can only crack down or stop individual strikes and individual demonstrations. But I don't think they can stop the growth of militancy.
No holds barred.
Besigye and Lukwago have particular grievances against the government, some legitimate, some misguided. What should the police do? Of course, the police has to intervene, A, to protect the power of President Yoweri Museveni and the NRM from disruption by Besigye and Lukwago, but B, also, never forget this, to protect those ordinary people whose property gets destroyed.
I want to ask that many think that they've actually been frustrated.
Opposition parties in Africa do not tend to be constructed around policy differences. FDC lacks a glue to hold its coalition of different power-hungry individuals together.
Incisive.
You see, the NRM is more divided internally than the FDC. The advantage with the NRM is it has political power.
Analytical.
I think that one of the best organized political parties in Uganda is the PPP, the People's Progressive Party with Dan Sali. This idea that everybody is telling around the world that Africans are poor and they cannot contribute to their own political and social emancipation is crap. In fact, I think that the opposition parties in Uganda have to win an election in an unfair and unleveled ground.
Newsnight with Andrew Mwenda.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Running out of airtime can happen to anyone. The next time you recharge, simply dial *161# to get going again.
On the next episode of La Patrona.
I understand though. You did it to protect your new life, right?
You knew it, didn't you? In his own blood.
No!
He was screaming. He was still sacrificing himself for me. He was begging me to get out because we were surrounded by explosives. He wanted me to go, but I just couldn't leave him like that.
For something like this.
She called me on the phone.
Who called you?
Constanza.
Where have you been?
Well, I was in my office.
Would you stop trying to lie to me? You were with Inez.
La Patrona.
At Orange, we know that running out of airtime can happen to anyone. That's why we bring you Wetase. Simply dial *161# to get going again. Convenience changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us up to this time, Morning at NTV. Of course, what a hot ticket to wake up to. And I told you at the beginning of this show that for the next 5 days, NTV and the entire crew, production crew, we're already set up here at the Namugongo Matters Shrine, and up to Tuesday we will be giving you clips and some of the interviews that we'll be carrying out here. All our bulletins are going to be here just to make sure that you are part of this. This is a grand event. A lot of history is attached to this place, and we're celebrating that, not just the activities that take place here, but also what each of these matters means to you. On our Facebook page, we asked you which matter do you celebrate and why. Help us answer that question. Lots of your feedback on Twitter, and earlier I talked to a group of pilgrims that arrived from Barada. They were very excited, jubilating and chanting, and they couldn't believe that they have finally made it to Namugongo. So let me just sample a couple of your messages on Twitter. At Joseph R. Rabosa saying, a 60-year-old walks from Tungamo to Namugongo. That's amazing. At Andrew Chero saying, that was a wonderful clip Brian did at Namugongo. Those 70-year-olds, a spectacle to ponder. Awesome. At Yigraf saying, NTV Uganda at morning at NTV. That's the #1 station, definitely turning on our world. Most of you retweeting, of course, that we are live in Namugongo. Our platforms are still open. Facebook, Twitter, and the SMS platform is also open. Now, from far, your eyes cannot help but to catch the sight of a whitish pinnacle towering the normally beautiful blue sky. What are we talking about? The Namugongo Matters Shrine. Today on Everyday Life, we'll be looking at the architecture that it took to design such a beautiful, beautiful work of art, and why most people come to this place to celebrate the lives of the martyrs that died for giving up and saying, no, we are part of the Christian faith. Stay tuned. Everyday Life coming back. Well, welcome to Everyday Life. Francis Muonge, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. The Administrative Secretary at the Uganda Matters Shrine. Thank you so much. I know it's a very hectic time for you.
Yeah,
this is probably your busiest time here at the shrine. Tell us about the mood right now. People are getting here. I've just been dancing with some people from Barada, 70-year-olds. Their feet are swollen, but they're saying no, it's worth every step that we took from Tungam.
Yeah, like you've seen the dancers, whoever reaches here, they walk from all corners of the country. Some come even from outside Uganda.
Right.
And this is the center where they are coming. East, west, north. All of them are coming here, and getting here is a very big excitement.
Yeah.
That's why when they get the entrance, they are dancing, they are singing, they feel, yes, they have made it.
I was looking at some of them when they were, I think some of them couldn't believe that they finally reached. They were walking slowly, and then all of a sudden, when they saw this sight, they woke up and said, hey, finally we've made it. Francis, this is a beautiful design here, and most of us, even when you speak to architects, some of them are still marveled at the design that it took. Tell us quickly about, shortly about this beautiful design. When did this art of work come to life?
Thank you very much. Before this shrine, we had an old shrine, an old church.
There was an old church before?
Yes, because this year the parish celebrated 75 years. It was supposed to be in 2010, but it was postponed.
Okay.
And the old church was constructed in 1934, and that is the church that was demolished between 67 and 68. And then the construction of this one started. Before we had Lubaga Archdiocese and Kampala, and that it was at Nsambia. But in 1966, they were put together, they were brought together to make Kampala Archdiocese.
Right.
And the first Archbishop of Kampala Archdiocese was late Cardinal Emmanuel Nsuga. So
I remember I used to stay around Kabusu when he died, and we had to walk up to Rubaga.
Yes, Nalukolongo, where he had the Bakateyamba Center. So one of his first projects was the Uganda Matters Shrine. He wanted a shrine that depicts the African way of building.
Yeah, but
You
first, okay, right now on the screen we have the old shrine.
Yes.
Yeah. So Nsubuga wanted to change that.
Yes, wanted to change that. He wanted to change that. You know, it was the old shrine was beautiful, but it wasn't that big. It would not accommodate the number of people this one accommodates.
Right.
So it wasn't. It was beautiful but small.
How many does this accommodate?
This one, it accommodates 1,000 people.
Wow.
Yes.
That's huge.
So it was demolished. The old one was demolished. It was beautiful, and actually the parishioners, you know, were like, our church, what? But they didn't know what was coming ahead. So a German architect called Dr. Dan Hinden is the man behind this plan. He drew the plan, and you know, they liked it. Actually, the cardinal went up to Rome even to solicit for funds. You know, when you look at this church, it took a lot of money. You look at the timber inside, they were getting timber from Congo, you know, to make what you can see as the ceiling of this church. A lot of and very expensive timber.
You see, for example, these bars.
Yes.
The metal involved is, I'm always shocked when, you know, I see this. How long did it take for this church to be built?
Actually, the construction of this church started in 1969, and it was officially opened in 75. So when that is yes, around six years, yes. So it was not easy. It is our own Rocco construction that constructed this church, and actually it is one of their first projects in the country. Because coming here, it was invited by the Catholic Church. And I know they must be proud of the Catholic Church. So it has 22 pillars, as you've seen them. Each pillar representing a matter. Today we have 24, but initially we had 22 Uganda matters, and those are the ones who are celebrating 50 years of their canonization.
So actually, these bars on this shrine are not just we are looking for support for the building. There's a significance.
Yes.
Each pillar.
Yes, each pillar. And when you enter inside, in between two pillars, there is a portrait of a martyr. So there are again 22 portraits, 22 pillars, each standing for a martyr.
Right.
Yes.
Wow, that's brilliant. That's very intelligent.
And when you look at it, it is like you know, an African part. You know, that's what he wanted. The martyrs were Africans, and by the time they were killed, we were living in such structures. So the cardinal wanted to bring out that image of the African way of construction.
Right.
Yes.
Well, if you're just joining us, I'm with Francis Mwonga, and if he is administrative secretary here at the Uganda Matters Shrine. If you're an architect, it's probably important to borrow some tips here. Something that I've just learned, each of the pillars on the shrine, and if we can have that image on the screen, each of the pillar there represents a matter. It's not just a design, it was intended. Whereas there's about 24 now, but the 22 pillars on the shrine is representative of each matter. The construction started in 1969 and ended in 1975. Francis, tell us about the inside, you know, the design. I know it's circular. Why circular? Is it still representing the Africanness
yes.
at that time?
I think these days this kind of architecture is disappearing, especially in the urban areas. But you go to the villages, you will find our traditional art, circular. And exactly this is what it is. We wanted that African art to come out in the construction of the shrine.
Right.
Yes.
I see a lot of you know, art on the doors. Do they have any significance also?
Yes, and when our pilgrims come here, some people call them tourists, but for us we call them pilgrims. When they come here, one of the first things to be shown to them is the art on the doors. You know, when the missionaries came, They came with the boxes. Maybe you will move around and see this. They came with boxes. You will see the art on the doors of the white man coming with boxes, and then he started evangelization, and then how the matters were converted, how they were throwing away the charms, how they were baptized. We have images of popes who have come here. We have images of all important people who have done something for Namgongo. The late Cardinal, a number of people. You will see when you visit probably the church. You will see the art we are talking about. So it has, the art on the doors has a lot of history as regards the Uganda matters. Yes.
Well, currently, you know, we've not yet had the opportunity of entering inside because there's mass after mass after mass, and you know, people getting in here. And before we, even ask you more questions about the building, what is the thing now that you're doing? Do people come in? What's the order of the day before 3rd June?
3rd June. Actually, at the moment, people are coming in, and as they come in, our main focus is spirituality. That's why you are saying we have mass and mass and mass. There is nothing more we can give. Like now, as we are talking, you see other people are coming in. There is nothing more you can give to them. You can't give them food, you can't feed them, you can't, only giving them the word of God, and that is what they come for. Right. When they find mass going on, my goodness, they feel like they are entering heaven, because they have walked kilometers and kilometers to come to Namgongo. Right. So basically that's what is happening, and we're expecting many more pilgrims to arrive. Right. Yes.
Anything, any other grand design on this building? I had never known that one of the pillars represent, the matter. Yes. But something also very spectacular about the roof, and I know it represents the pinnacle at the top. Yes. And I know it represents the Africanness at that time for us. Is there a special material that was used? I see a big cross that is metallic. There's no Jesus symbol. This is really different. Yes. Apart from, you'd have chosen to build a grand thing like Rubaga Cathedral, but then you chose this.
Yeah, like I've told you, this church, the plan of this church, by the way, at some point was a little bit changed. It was not supposed to be the way it is, because it was supposed to be open. It was not supposed to have these walls, these solid ones. It was supposed to have glasses that open. Glasses? Yes, glasses that are supposed to open and close. When you open, even as you are here, you are able to see what's happening inside. And then when everything is done, they are closed. But those glasses were brought in the country during late Idi Amin's regime. Yeah. And maybe the government by that time did not understand what they were meant for. And then,
well, I guess even during that time, Uganda was registered as an Islamic state. So.
Yeah, so they confiscated the glasses. Until now, we don't know where they took them. So when we were celebrating centenary, that is 100 years of the Catholic Church, they decided to put the walls, metallic walls, right. Because by that time it had timber, and it was not looking good. Right. But the pinnacle there is just to emphasize our African architecture, as like you've seen in villages, how they construct huts. Right. Yes.
This is interesting. This is interesting. We'll definitely be looking at more structures here, and I know our viewers have asked us questions about the lake, the water. We'll be looking at that, the significance of these things. But if you are a pilgrim, you're thinking of walking, even if you're from Chireka, you can walk from Chireka up to Namugongo.
Yeah, a pilgrimage does not mean long distances. Yeah. But a pilgrimage means a holy journey to a holy place. So even if somebody decides to walk from Chalwajala with that purpose, with that intention in mind, that is a pilgrimage.
Right.
People don't have to think they may board, then go to the village, then walk from there. No. Where you are, you just walk from there to the shrine with the purpose of making a pilgrimage. It will be done.
Right.
Yes.
Francis,
yes.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You are welcome.
I know you have a very hectic schedule,
yeah.
So we'll let you go and do exactly that. Well, for the rest of us, we are going to, I can assure you, we are just getting started. By 3rd June, you will know everything and anything that is concerning here, the Namugongo Matters Shrine. Mabel is at our NTV studios. And Mabel, what feedback do you have on our Facebook page?
Thank you very much, Brian. We have lots of feedback. As you can see from here, the screen behind, we have been posting pictures about what's happening in Namugongo. And some of your comments now, we have Malox Mandela saying Daudi Okello and Gildo are his favorite saints because they were killed for spreading the gospel to the people of Kitgum, where the blood was shed. We had asked earlier which matter you celebrate and why. And we have Anna saying none. She doesn't support any. She's just waiting for Christ to return. Emmanuel says Mawagali because he had swag. And Mutumba Adam says he supports Kizito. He celebrates Kizito because Kizito is young. And we also have Precious saying Kizito was not afraid despite his age. He's a great man in the lives of children. Asimwe Karo saying Saint Charles Luanga because he's my dad's patron saint, as well as Saint John Paul II, who is also a patron saint. We have Zin saying Pontiano Ndongwe because my former school was named after him, and the fact that the school is successful shows that the Lord accepted him. Me, I can't. Is it because I serve the God who was held on the cross? So there is no need of doing what he did when he died on the cross. And thank you all for your messages. Moving on to some of your comments about the big story, where we had Arthur Larocque from Action Aid. He said the essence of the NGO Registration Amendment Bill is to ensure that the NGOs are publicly accountable. Now, Andrew says it's a good thing because it will reduce on corruption. But we have Amon disagreeing, saying he doesn't see why NGOs should be accountable to a corrupt government. And we had the press review earlier with Joel and Simon, with Frederick saying here that big up, thank you NTV for turning on their world. And we have still here, live coverage. Brian is live at Namugongo Matters Shrine. And we have Frank Lloyd saying that we have Adam, saying, I can't wait, I am watching. We have Musa saying there's no power in Bar municipality. And also Edinan saying there's no power in Kapchora, but at least they're following the proceedings on Facebook. And do continue the discussion on Facebook as we cross over to Brian for sport. Brian, can you hear me?
Well, thank you so much, Mabel. You know, the mood here at the shrine is definitely what Francis Muonge said. It's definitely spiritual. And most people are still trekking in, walking the long distances. Of course, defining what a pilgrimage is. You don't have to board and go to Kabari, then start walking, regardless of whether you are coming from. I know a couple of people who have also said you are going to walk from Tinda and then come and sleep here at Namugongo. I'll probably talk to a couple of people here and what this journey means. Maybe let me talk to Mama here. Good morning, Ma'am. What's the zoti amukwa? Unsura nunji. Gwe uva wa okujani na Ibanda. Watambude nawe? Uine emyaka emeka?
5.
Uine emyaka 5? N'otambula okuva Ibanda? Watambulire ennaku mmeka? Wiki 2. Paka wano ebigere tebikuluma.
Hangana bikizi.
lwaki wasazeewo okujja wandisigadde ewaka
hangani wampeera maani kukesaaho egi hangani weyampeera maani kasooka nzaarwa amaani nagamagingo n'ogu nteekwa kumuronda.
Amiina. Kambuuze wano omwami Ssebo Gyebaleko.
Nawe Gyebaleko Ssebo.
Govaawa.
Rukungiri.
Watambulire ennaku mmeka?
Nnaku 10.
Naye gwe olabika nga alina amaanyi.
Nkiina maani Katonda yanyamba ninzija bulungi.
Olina kye weebaza nnyabo kubanga abantu abamu bagamba bo balina testimony nti nina obujulizi kibula anazze wano n'okwebaza Mukama Katonda.
Nyowe ndasiima Mukama ahabw'okuba ndigire Nyarusanze omudayisizi ya Kabale. Omukubanza tukatambulire ennaku 11 mwena tutambulire ennaku 9 ishemerirwe tinzimbire bigyere handi kubitambuza kandi nyine emyaka 7 y'obukuru.
Olina emyaka
7 y'obukuru.
Sokojja wano bakulabe bulungi. Ono omukyala alina emyaka 7 mukikiriza. She's 70 years.
Kandi nshemerirwe ndikutambura ntambugize sanda kayimire ndakozesa kandi tekyekire nakisiga hali tikantambura n'ebigyere Mukama yampire mbwenu tinyine songa nyine emyaka 45 omu bufumbo.
Mbwenu
shemerirwe nebaza Mukama.
Well, you know what? There are other people to talk to, and we will be coming back to talk to them. This is an inspiration. If you're thinking about making the pilgrimage, you had better start now. What are we celebrating? 22 martyrs gave up their lives for the Christian faith. 14 of those were buried here. A special thing inside the church, the altar in the middle of the church. Why? We'll find out when we come back. And of course, with my partner in crime, Isma, here with a sports update live from the Martyrs Shrine here in Namugongo. Stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji and Brian Mulondo.
I'm Don Moen, and I'm really excited that God has made a way for me to come to Uganda through Advercom Media and CMC Productions. I'll be having my good friend Lenny LeBlanc. First will be a VIP concert at the Victoria Hall at the Serena Hotel. On the 2nd of June, general concert open to the public at Makerere University Ground. And on the 3rd of June, a worship seminar at Miracle Center Cathedral. Get your tickets early. It's going to be a great 3 days of worship. See you real soon.
I would pray, lift my hands to honor.
This is New Close-Up Deep Action. We created it to give the world 3 times fresher breath and eliminate up to 99% of germs. Maybe we went too far. There's an outbreak of freshness. Now the best ever from Close-Up. 3 times fresher breath.
Government should avail an additional Uganda shillings 22.7 billion to increase the capitation grant per pupil per year from Uganda shillings 6,860 to Uganda shillings 10,000 to improve learning outcomes of the pupils. It's a constant at Uganda shillings 62.4 billion for the current and upcoming financial year. Watch out for the budget speech on 12th of June. Our budget, our responsibility.
Running out of airtime can happen to anyone. The next time you recharge, simply dial *161# to get going again.
On the next episode of
amawulire gaagano.
Wetwogerera Jeff former manager wa Good Life ne Radio Moses ng'olutalo lwabwe lulutungidde ddala waggulu.
Mbadde nkyali wano ate nga ndawa Jeff ajja ne Patrick.
Wabula nga twafunye Chaga nga naye atunyonya mu ngeri yemu ne radio gwe bakasala ebicupacupa n'erinnyo lye eryavuddemu. Ani mutuufu ani ayagala okutunda ebintu lwaki bakubagana? So emboozi eno yonna tugenda okutaano n'ekitundu tugenda gikwataganya mu ngeri yemu. Judith babiri atwegaseeko okubanga ali mu mega launch wali ku Serena Hotel agenda kuba tuwulira ebintu bingi nnyo so kututabire Judith babiri. Mpozi Abdumulasi eyakomyewo n'agamba nti oluyimba olwa mini luno lumukomezaawo sawa nyene ekitundu kona ne NTV Miles wa miti twegatteko.
At Orange, we know that running out of airtime can happen to anyone. That's why we bring you Wetase. Simply dial *161# to get going again. Convenience changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
Well, it's exactly 25 minutes on to 9 o'clock. Morning at NTV is still at Martha's Shrine, Namugongo, and of course we've just been doing just between Namugongo and the studio. Now in the background, some of the people here just praying to God and you know, just giving their prayer requests to the Almighty, and I know most of them have walked long distances to get here and definitely giving their thanks to God. Now the church that we've been looking at earlier with Francis Mwonge sits about 1,000 people, actually more than 1,000 people, with an altar at the center, the place where Charles Lwanga was killed. Just at that point they laid the altar of the church, and this place was started, the building started in 1967 and commissioned in 1975 by His Eminence the Papal Special Envoy Sergio Cardinal Pignedoli on the 3rd June of 1975. So NTV is going to be here up to that day, bring you a live transmission of some of the events going on. So you need to follow us on our Facebook page, Morning at NTV, and of course Twitter at Morning at NTV. Let us know your thoughts, your questions, and we'll try and answer some of them. Now it's obviously very strange for someone whose name is Isma at Namugongo. Isma, good morning.
Good morning. I'm extremely open-minded about the job. Wherever the job will take me, I'll go.
What do you think about all this? People walking from Kabale, walking more than 75 kilometers to come.
Amazing. It's amazing the amount of commitment. And I grew up in Masaka, and I know what it means. Such a day in Masaka, this is the kind of time when we would rest and literally do nothing.
Right.
And people would walk from Masaka. I was a child around my primary 1-2. And when I used to see all those people walking, I was in Masaka, so I didn't know how long it took them to get here.
Yeah.
But now when I've grown up and just put the distance into that, and I did attend a Catholic school, St. Anne's College, for my A level. So I know exactly what this is, what this means. But I haven't been here in some time. I was last year, I think, in my high school, and it was because of a trip, just coming to see the monuments in Uganda, and then for the school just adjacent, that is Uganda Matters SS Namugongo. I came here to visit my sister, my cousin. She's called Joan, from way back. But I haven't been here in some time. But it never changes. That's amazing.
It's always the
It's
same.
been like this.
Yeah, since then.
Yeah.
And you're going to continue seeing images of people just walking across, you know. Some of them are probably tired from the journey.
No, we're actually in their way.
We are in their way.
In the
Yeah, but you know, we are also pilgrims in some sort. Well, this morning in Sport Isma, we must be all systems go for Madagascar. And I know it was, you know, we had the plan of bringing some of the Cranes players, but Mitchell making sure that all of them think in the same direction for this game. It's important for us to overcome this game. Are we ready? In your opinion, are we ready for this?
I want to split this up in just a few things. I have my fears, I have my expectations.
First, your fears.
My fears is that it's unthinkable that Uganda would get knocked out at this stage tomorrow, because it's the first stage of qualifying. We haven't even got to the group stages. We've always never gone this far.
This would be like the playoffs.
This would be like way even before the playoffs, like playing in the Championship, trying to get the Premier League.
Wow.
Because we are still too far away from getting into the stage of the group stage, where we'll play either the three of Ghana, Guinea and Togo. So my fear is that if Uganda got knocked out at this stage, would be horrific. Would be the worst thing I think to happen to Ugandan sport this year. And this is a team, Madagascar.
Definitely be a bad record for Mitchell. Like no coach has done this before.
Exactly. You can't sink this low. And we all know Madagascar has not beaten Uganda since 1983. I saw Simon this morning on the press review talk about the ranking. The ranking difference 103 places behind Uganda. I'm not a fan of rankings myself, but I know if you got knocked out by a country with that low in the rankings, then it would be catastrophic. My expectations are that Uganda will win, and that's not because it's what I wish, but I know Uganda has not lost a game at Nambole for 10 years. The last one was back in 2004 when Ben McCarthy scored that penalty for South Africa. So Uganda is one of the strongest teams in Africa at home. So for a team that hasn't lost at home for 10 years, you would imagine the advantage for Uganda is 70-30. But that cannot be hollow. It has got to bank on improvement, because the way the team played in last 2 weeks ago in Madagascar wasn't very good. The performance wasn't there. The left back shot has been a point of discussion because Joseph Ocha didn't play well. And Mwesigo and Henry Kalonji didn't play well either as a defensive partnership. They were lacking bite in the middle because of Tony Maweji wasn't in the team. Now he's there. The goalkeeper was earning his first cap in Ismail Watenga. Now Dennis Onyango comes in. So my expectation is that with 3 or 4 more senior players, the team will perform much better than they did. And the last one, but Amanda, no illusion. It won't be an easy game, but I expect Uganda Cranes to win, because it's like I started, it's unthinkable.
I've been asking myself this, this whole time, and I know on Twitter, first of all, the jersey has been thumped a lot. People call it a very ugly jersey. But what is the role of the fan here? The tickets are very expensive.
The role of the fan is the 12th man, supposed to come and cheer on the team. That's I think the least a fan can do. But when you say the price of a ticket, and I've been one of those, and I remember when the ticket prices first came out, it was Brian Tuka was doing his show that morning. Is that I look at it in 2 ways. One, I'm sure as a fan, I find that ticket expensive, but I would watch the game anyway, personally, because sport is what I do, even if it wasn't a job. But then, secondly, I also understand from FUFA's situation. The revenue sources are too little, so they have to maximize on the fee they have like this much. But on the other hand, why I would fault FUFA is on 2 fronts. One is that if you want to collect 1 billion, you don't have to collect 100,000 from each one. You'll probably find it easier to get 1 billion by collecting 10,000.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because more will come.
More numbers, then you'll get the money much easier. 2 is that FUFA are not reading the situation. If this was a game between Uganda and Ivory Coast, I know Ugandans, they would even pay 50,000 willingly, because they are stars they can relate to. Yaya Toure, Kolo Toure, Emmanuel Eboe, they would relate to that. Now the thing is that Madagascar is a minnow. It's not a team that Ugandans know much about. So if you read the situation, if I'm FUFA, you wouldn't want to charge this money, because people don't know about the team that they are playing. It's not a big football country.
No player
there is no player in there. If this was Egypt and everyone talk about Barakat, Abutrika, people would willingly pay the 30,000. But I think FUFA didn't read the situation well in terms of what team they are playing, because the best businessmen are situation. If you want to do business, you must read the situation. And when you read the situation well, that's when you get the right price for your product.
Speaking of situations in basketball, it's I feel sorry for the players with dual roles. The league is going on, but also the national team is also busy. What does this mean for such players who have to be for their club, but also the national team?
It's been a bit taxing, because they have to train with the team, with their clubs, and then with the national team. That means for at least 6 of the 7 days in a week, they have practice. One of them, I think, is Ben Komakech, CTL, and Daniel Najagioko. And I saw them last evening in the national team training at Lugogo. Yet, they have a game today between KIU and City Oilers. Then thereafter, on Saturday, they will play another trial game as a national team that is playing for the Zone 5 Championship. We also play a trial game against the Kenyan side. Now it's been that kind of week, but I think sometimes you must make this kind of sacrifice if you're going to succeed. Uganda really wants to qualify for the AfroBasket when the Zone 5 comes here, come June 15th. Now the only thing the only way they're going to succeed in doing that is taking the sacrifices, and all players in the league are taking those kind of sacrifices, because normally players in Uganda, players only train twice a week for their club engagements. Now, with the national team in the picture, they're having to train at least 6 times a week, because the national team trains thrice, play trial games, play in the league. But somehow, I think they are coping. While they might feel a little bit jaded, I think when the league breaks up for the national team engagement, then they can take a breather and prepare for the Zone 5.
Right. Well, when it comes to Serena and Warren were knocked out, Nadal, Murray and Federer all restored normalcy. Isn't this a very important weekend at Roland?
It's a very important weekend, I think, at Roland Garros, because this is the weekend when we get to separate, like they say, the corn from the chaff, because after the weekend, by the time we get back here, Brian, on Monday, there will be 16 players, I think, left in the draw, because the first 3 rounds will be gone. And I was really interested to see what kind of shape, for example, Rafael Nadal goes into the round of 16, and he was at his ruthless best yesterday as he won his match. I was also impressed by Andy Murray. Yesterday won his match against an Australian. I think he's called Matosevic. The name sounds Serbian, but he's Australian. And he also won his match. I saw Maria Sharapova also making it through. But I think this is the pivotal weekend, because at Roland Garros, or at all Grand Slams, at the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, is like the bridge. Thereafter, the players who are ranked probably 50 and over are gone. Then it's the real business. That's when the real business starts. So this is a very pivotal weekend, I think, for people like Rafael Nadal. He has to make it to round of 16. Novak Djokovic is already through to that round. David Ferrer, who was beaten in last year's French Open final, is also among those who is looking forward to making the round of 16. And so is the women's draw. There's still a lot of Eastern European influence there. From Poland, Agnieszka Radwanska is through. Like I said, Sharapova, Chiblunkova is through. Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova is through. So without Serena and Venus Williams, who are already knocked out, and Lina, then
Roland Garros will definitely be in their minds forever.
It will always be, but one of the things because they knocked out hours apart, and at day one they would have met in round 3. But the thing I love about Roland Garros, especially for the women, is that there isn't much of a consistent winner. The last 5 winners have all been almost first-time winners at Roland Garros, except Serena Williams. And actually, for the most dominant tennis player of her generation, Serena Williams, it took her 11 years to win 2 French Open titles, 2002 and 2013. That's not the same for the women, for the men's draw. But for the women, every year is a new winner. Lina, Francesca Schiavone, very competitive. They keep on changing. Right. And I really hope that probably it's Maria Sharapova this time.
Right. Well, if you're just joining us, we are coming to you live from the Uganda Matters Shrine in Namugongo, and talking sport this morning with a man who definitely has never made a pilgrimage to this place. But it really feels good to be here.
I've come here in a car. I've come here in a cab.
I stay like 2 minutes away from this place, but it feels very, very, I feel so spiritual right now, just being here. And we're going to stay here until the 3rd of June 2014 with the entire NTV crew, and of course morning at NTV starting off this morning. So stay with us, go to our platforms, Facebook and Twitter, to let us know what you think. Now, NBA. They came down from 2-0 in the Western Conference Finals. OKC, are they going to manage the renaissance against Spurs?
This morning that renaissance was snapped, because the San Antonio Spurs beat up on the Oklahoma City Thunder 117-89. If I was doing the big story of press review, I would say gazumped, lampooned, and use that kind of language. But for sport, I'll say thrashed or decimated. There was only one team on the floor this morning, the San Antonio Spurs. Right. Tim Duncan, the veteran, 22 points and 12 rebounds. And then they had several other players in double figures. Kawhi Leonard, Boris Diaw, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili, who had 19. It was barely a contest. And this is the kind of thing you expect of the Spurs. And I've watched the last 2 games when they were leading 2-0 and then let OKC back into it. And I kept on thinking, basketball is a game of momentum. If one team has momentum, they could barely be stopped. And after watching Russell Westbrook score 40 points the other night, I knew he couldn't go and repeat a 40-point feat this morning. But eventually, I think it came down to how good Spurs are on their home floor. When they play in San Antonio, they are unbeatable. I've always thought that when they get to the playoffs, they play like a machine. These are the two teams that reached the conference final for the last 2 years, and I remember probably for many Spurs fans, they could have been fearing before this game, the 2012 incident, because back then Spurs were leading by 2 games to nil. Then OKC recovered and won 4 games in a row to go to the NBA finals. So when the Spurs gave either 2-0 lead, they must have been a little bit edgy, but they got past it and won their game. Now they lead 3-2, and they could actually advance to the finals on tomorrow night if they can beat up on Oklahoma in Oklahoma. They will have won the series 4-2. But while the other series could also be finished tonight, because the Miami Heat, the 2-time NBA defending champions, could book a 4th appearance in the finals if they go and beat up on the Indiana Pacers in Miami.
Right.
That's around 3:30 a.m. going into Saturday. If they do that, then the Miami Heat are through to the finals, which I expect them to do. I think basketball or sport happens in generation. Right. This is the LeBron James generation, and whatever stands in his way, they'll overcome it. Even games when he doesn't play
well,
well.
I must say, that's why I respect men like Tim Duncan, who always bring the experience when it's needed. Yeah. He's always delivering for Spurs when they most need him. So, regardless of LeBron James, Tim Duncan always stays relevant. 13 days to the World Cup. Quickly, there are so many international friendlies this weekend, but which one should we look out for?
I think one, for obvious reasons, I'll be looking out for is England. They host Bolivia today at Wembley, and one of the reasons I'm looking forward to it is that not even for what England would, I'll get what England are supposed to do in the match. There are 2 big events at Wembley, today and tomorrow. There is the biggest boxing match in English history that is going to have 80,000 packed into Wembley tomorrow between Carl Froch and George Groves. They fought a first time and Froch won in controversial fashion. So the organizers, I was seeing a story where the organizers have 18 hours to rearrange the stadium from a football venue tonight to a boxing venue tomorrow. And that would be very interesting. I'd love to see what the process is going to entail. And as they do that, England will have known what they are going to do, because in the week ahead, that is on Monday, which is June 2nd, it's a deadline for FIFA for submitting the final 23. England have done that. Now they need to test. There's a lot of players in that team who haven't been playing competitive. Phil Jagielka and Phil Jones have been some of those who've been injured. They need to try them out. They need to try out the partnership between Rooney and Sturridge. They need to try out, I think, so many things in the midfield. When they gave out their jerseys the other week, they seem to have settled on Lampard, Gerrard and Jack Wilshere in the middle. So they need to see who is going in to do what in that kind of role. But after I think the English are done, there will be many more friendlies. I know there is Ivory Coast against Bosnia. I want to look at that. I want to look at that match and see what Ivory Coast are bringing to the World Cup this time. They are qualifying for the 3rd successive occasion. And many people believe they have the best team in Africa. And they will be the best team, they will be Africa's best chance of competing at the World Cup. Now, they've not delivered necessarily, and I thought in 2006 they had a very cruel draw because they had Netherlands and Argentina in their group, and then Serbia. They had no chance for me of getting to the group series. But this time, it's genuine belief that Ivory Coast could probably do well, and they could start to showcase that against Edin Dzeko and company on Sunday. And there's a lot of them. There's an avalanche of friendlies. And most of them are luckily on television. So by the time we get back here on Monday, Tuesday, we'll be able to tell which team is going into prepared and not prepared at the level they'd want to be. But I think this is a kind of friendlies that are important. All over the year, I watch so many football games, friendlies that are irrelevant, that I can't even remember the moment the final whistle goes. Now for this, because it's a World Cup 13 days away, every coach knows the importance, and actually the importance is even elevated with the fact that for those who still have 30 players in their squads like Holland, they should be able to choose their team by end of the weekend, and then on Tuesday put out their final 23. For teams like Holland, who don't have Rafael van der Vaart, who is now injured, there's a lot of work for them to look at, I think, through the weekend, and that should be very interesting when all these games are televised on TV.
Right. Well, we'll be, of course, having a comprehensive update on Monday, but you can catch Isma later. You're going to be on You finish your tests.
I did copy. I tried to use my brain and not look at anyone's script.
Yeah. So what exactly were you writing?
I was writing math, which I find an oatmeal, and a bit of economics. The toughest subject at school is literature.
Because you have to read. All right, so Isma will be on Omumuli at 1:30 p.m. with Lumanse and Alan, so make sure you catch them. And of course, every Monday, sports bar from Club Silk at 10:30 p.m. What is morning at NTV without your African proverb? Let's check it out. Well, today's African proverb is from the Maasai land. It is impossible to find a man who has everything, but it is possible to find one who enjoys the things he has.
It is possible to find one who enjoys the things as the first part of the proverb, because
it is
it's
impossible
long.
to find a man who has everything.
Yeah, that's right. I think we are all strong because we lean on someone or we seek help from something. When I'm right here, I can imagine the guys behind here. They probably they come here at 5 a.m. They've been here for long, and we have to lean on them to get this program leaning. But even the material things that we all treasure, and we live in a generation of capitalism where we've been told to be consumers. That's why there's an iPhone 1, an iPhone 2, an iPhone 3, and they're upgrading all the time. When we became consumers, we lean on someone.
Yeah.
Always.
Right.
Yeah. But it's also like the second part of the proverb said, it's also easy to find someone who is making the most of what they have.
Even the little they have.
The little they have. There are
right.
So many of them. Some of them are right behind us.
Yeah, I just see these guys here. If you look at them, you definitely assume that most of them don't have anything, but they have chosen to walk for all this to come and just do this. You know, it's really beautiful. And
like the best part of the news when I was seeing Sohail Mugabe for the past 1 week, and he's been working with people from Moroto.
Sohail Mugabe is working.
Yeah,
okay.
And I saw last evening they were in Lugazi, at least according to the NTV tonight. And I was looking at those people. Even the things they are using to get here. The soda is given to them by well-wishers, by you, like you. You find them and give them a piece of cake.
Yeah.
And I know after you've given out something, you feel good about it. And when you get lucky the next day, you even don't know where that luck came from. It's probably from that person, because they're making the most of the little.
I like what you said. You might get lucky today. Maybe you can do an act of kindness this morning or the whole day. Go to work. If you're a boss, go to work and surprise people with salary.
A pay rise.
Yes, things like that.
Or buy them lunch.
Yeah, you know, and let's...
At this point, I should probably ask our bosses to move the NTV studio right here, because
we are like 2 minutes.
Yeah, you're 2 minutes from this place. I'm 6 minutes from this place.
Well, the business is still going on here at Namugongo. We promise you that we'll be here on Monday also to give you a more comprehensive coverage of every element here at Namugongo and cover most of these things. Francis Monge was here to tell us about the architecture, architect that did this work. Some of the bars, the timber was brought from Congo. The ladies selling the rosaries, definitely also getting some money here. Lots of activity, and we are going to cover all that. And want to leave you, have a fantastic Friday, and make sure you do something kind today. You never know who you bless. The movie is up next. I need to drink something. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
NTV, turning on your world.